Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today I am bringing you the newest page in our Nameplate series. And today we are going to be working in Animorphia by Kerby Rosanes, and that was voted by you guys. So I'm quite excited about this because I love Kerby's pictures, I'm really into his stuff. Just before we get started, I am going to be using the 72 set of Arteza pencils. I quite like these so far, but I really haven't road tested them properly, so I thought this would be a really good opportunity to do so. If you haven't seen these pencils in action, where have you been? But if you're looking for a budget pencil that is quite high quality and good for blending and just good for colourists in general, I suggest that you check out the review I did on these. I'll leave it in the card, I shall leave a link in the description, but I'll also stick it on the end card if you want to go and watch it after you've watched this. Anyway, okay, so I gave a bit of thought to this, and you can see here I've made a tiny wee start on it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about why I've decided to do this. It is quite a busy picture and I had to make the decision before I started whether or not I wanted to have a multitude of things going on, but as I say, there already is, so I wasn't really happy about that. And I decided to do quite a sort of muted mottled background. Now if we just get zoomed in a little bit, you can see I've started down here, so I'm going to have this really delicate dark background, and it's so that I can use really bright colours on the rest of the picture and everything's just going to pop out at me. So that's kind of the plan. So in order to do that, what I want to do today is I'm not going to film every second of every square inch of this paper. What we're going to do today is just look at the technique that I'm using for the background, and I want to do a little bit and then I want to show you how I'm going to surround the part where we actually put our name in, and that's going to give you an idea of the technique without me boring the pants off you for like 3 videos just colouring in a background. So let's get started. I have been doing a bit of colour testing here for this little patch that I've done already. You can see it's quite delicate, and it is a style of mine, you know, I tend to favour sort of more delicate backgrounds, and I'm only using 2 pencils for this, which is nice also, and those 2 pencils are Sage and Charcoal. Alright, so the trick is here to keep a very light hand, and you can see that although I'm using quite dark colours, it is actually quite a pale background. Now I'm doing this deliberately, it is generally my style, but the reason that I'm doing it is once I've coloured the rest of the picture and I've seen how vibrant the colours are, it lets me go back and darken these areas down if I want to or if I feel it needs it. So the key to this is keeping a light hand, and it's really straightforward, and I know that some of the newer colourists tend to struggle with backgrounds, but the idea behind this is that you actually don't put too much thought into it. So all I'm doing is my little circular motions, and note where I'm holding the pencil, I'm holding it quite far back from the tip, and that's just to alleviate that pressure. Pip is playing with her toys again, she does this all the time. Regular viewers will know that every time I sit down and do a video she starts rumbling about and playing, and she has been sleeping up until now. Every time. Anyway, right, let's get on a bit. So I'm just alternating between my charcoal and my sage, and all I'm doing is building up kind of like blotchy areas. There you go, it's very technical and professional. Put in a few splodges here and there with the charcoal. I have talked about this a little bit before, but I kind of struggle to make things random. If I concentrate on it too much, I end up trying so hard that it ends up looking uniform and it's completely by accident. So once I've got a few of these charcoal patches in, I'm just going to go with my sage and I'm just going to fill in the gaps basically. And as I always do, it's a habit of mine, is to get that first layer of colour down, and what it does is it just helps you map out the colour in front of your eye and gives you a sort of rough idea of what it's going to look like before you really commit. Because when we're using pencil layers that are this light, it's really easy to erase them. So if you change your mind, you've got the option there, you know, you're not stuck with it. And as we all know, coloured pencil isn't always the easiest thing to erase. Especially if you've used heavy pressure or you've got a couple of layers down, you can never quite get rid of all the pigment. And that really helps to take away that feeling of, you know, being overwhelmed by a picture. So I'm just gradually going to build this up. So back with my charcoal here, and I've decided this tip round this petal I want to be a bit darker, so we can go in. Now I don't want anybody getting too hung up on what their background looks like. The thing you have to remember is that it is a background. Don't start agonising over it, because it should not be the focal point of the picture. Obviously you want it to look nice, that goes without saying, and you want it to fit in with what you're doing, but you don't need that sort of pinpoint accuracy and attention to detail that you do with the focal point of the picture. So if it doesn't look quite right, or you're just not quite satisfied with it, don't worry about it, because when you actually start putting in, especially with this, because we're going to use really bright colours for the foreground, you know, it's really not going to be that bad, and it's not going to be that big a deal. So as long as you've planned your colours out, I think that's the main thing, and you know in your head what you're trying to achieve, then that is really all that matters. So that is kind of what we're going for. And the really nice thing about these Arteza pencils is that they blend really nicely. They really are. They're nice pencils. I'm quite impressed with them. And most of you will know that I tend to stick with my Prismacolors or my Polychromos. My Polychromos are my sort of favourite colouring pencils, I would say. So I find this quite refreshing. They're available in a 48 set, and they're also available in the 72, and as it stands that is all. But I have heard rumblings that they are going to start producing open stock. Now that is a huge plus for me, because I kind of like, it's the downside of budget pencils, is that especially if you favour a particular colour, and for me that's greens, I use green a lot, that's my favourite colour, and knowing that you may chew through those pencils quicker than the rest in the set, you're then having to go and buy a complete new set just to get, you know, the colours that you use most frequently. So I find that quite off-putting about pencils, and it's one of the major factors that makes me decide whether or not I'm actually going to use a set of pencils regularly. So I like the fact that Arteza are entertaining that, and I think they were waiting to see how well their pencils were going to do, as most brands do when they bring out a new product. So hopefully that will come in the future, and if that is the case, I will definitely be using these on a more regular basis, because I like them for colouring. Just move down here now. So you can see what I'm doing. I don't really need to explain much more than this. It's pretty straightforward, but again, I like to keep things like this simple. To me, colouring should be a very pleasant experience. It shouldn't be complex and be something that taxes your brain, because I use it to relax. I don't use it to, you know, to motivate myself and G myself up. It's the opposite. It's kind of like winding down for me. So I always like to keep things as simple as possible. There are some pictures that I'll tackle, and I'm really wanting to challenge myself, but these nameplate pages, they're not like that. I want these to be fun to colour and, you know, nice and relaxing, and you can kind of step back at the end of it and go, yeah, I quite like that. So even when I'm going between the pencils, I am leaving areas of varying numbers of layers and pressure. And again, that's just to give the variation in the picture. So you can see I've lent quite heavily down here with the sage. And there's areas up here where I've left it much, much lighter. Now again, you can go back and augment that and adjust that as you go along. Once you've completed the rest of the picture, you can always go back. And that's, as I said, why I like to leave the sort of lighter areas. But see, it's generally my style anyway. I am quite light-handed. And that came about when I first started colouring. I had like a super heavy death grip, and I was actually getting cramps in my hand. I do have an old hand injury anyway, so it's that was part of it as well, but my hand was really, really sore. I really sort of tried to train myself to lighten up and loosen up my grip, and I've probably gone a little bit too much the other way. I would say that's probably a fault of mine, but I would rather be too light than too heavy, because I can always go back and and do more. But I'm actually really enjoying these sort of muted colours. I didn't just want to use grey, I wanted some sort of colour in there, and this sage green is just perfect for that, because it is a very greyish tone, but it's got that little hint of green that lets you know that, yeah, look at me, I'm a colour. So I think I want to make this grey patch here a bit darker. It's just a bit sort of thick. I might even bring that all the way up there just because I can. I'm not really into really busy pictures. Like in an image like this, I would never have a really complicated busy background because it just makes my brain fall out my ears when I look at stuff like that. It's just not my bag. So you can get through a background like this quite quickly. You know, this isn't something that's going to take you 12 hours to do. And I think it's just having that sort of randomness aspect that you can really play with. And you can experiment a wee bit as well. If you want to use other colours, then obviously you use other colours. But because I'm thinking for the foreground, we've got all these little hummingbirds, and you know, they come in quite sort of bright colours. So I would like to be able to have them sort of pop out from the page, and you know, you look at it and be, wow, that's really bright and colourful. So in order to assist that, you want the contrast between the foreground and the background, and that really helps something stand out. So in the cave just now, autumn has hit us with a huge gigantic thump. It is the beginning of September, and our temperatures have just dropped. At night it is getting really cold now. We were down at 5 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but I'm just going to find out for all you other people that work in Fahrenheit. Yeah, so it's dropped down to 5 degrees Celsius at night, so that's like about 40 Fahrenheit. And we've gone from being 11 or 12 at night, so there's been quite a significant drop in the temperature in the last few days. And even during the day, although it's nice and it's sunny, you can feel that sort of autumn nip in the air. And I absolutely love this time of year. Like, I call it wintum. That period between the clocks changing, you know, when you're really into autumn and the run up to Christmas, that is my favourite time of year. So I'm coming into my favourite season right now, which is really nice. I'm looking forward to it. And round the farm we've got quite a lot of woodland, and this time of year there's lots of mushrooms that sprout up, and there's all different varieties and types, and I'm kind of learning about them as I go along. But last year I did take a lot of photographs of them, and this year what I want to do is I would like to do a series of watercolour paintings, or maybe even gouache paintings, of the different mushrooms. So that's something that I would be quite interested in doing. So I'm really happy because it's coming into autumn now. See, I love this time of year. I'm really interested as well to see what Pip's going to do, because last autumn Pip was a tiny puppy, and I want to see what she's going to do with all the leaves that are falling off the trees and everything, because I think she's going to find that great fun. I think that's going to be right up her street. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I like the dark nights because I like to be able to close the curtains and get the fire going and cozy up with like a blanket and a book. I love sort of shutting out the world when it's dark. And in the summertime here, we do have like maybe 2 weeks in the summer where it doesn't really get properly dark. Like, you could still go outside without a torch and see what you're doing, kind of thing. And I get to a point during the summer where I actually find the sunlight obtrusive, because when you shut your eyes at night, it's light. If you wake up during the night, it's still light, and then when you open your eyes in the morning, it's still light. So I embrace the dark. I like the dark. I think that comes as well from years of going out to milking parlours and taking milk samples. Obviously it's very early in the morning, and when I did that, I spent a lot of time working in the dark, and I was used to driving in the dark, and I was used to driving on country roads in the dark, and I find something very comforting about being up and working when the rest of the world is sleeping. I don't know why, it's just something that I really like. Because what used to happen was I would go to these dairy farms in the morning and go to the morning milking and take all the samples and all the rest of it. And so when I was coming home from work, which was usually about maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock, depending on which farm I was going to, and the roads would start to busy up with people going to like 9 to 5 jobs, and there was something really satisfying about being the person that was finished work when everyone else was just going. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I didn't mind the early mornings at all. I am a morning person anyway, and in 5 years I never slept in for a morning milking, not once. So sometimes it was a bit of an effort, you know, if the weather was really, really bad, you know, if it was like heavy snow or rain or wind, you'd kind of open your eyes at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, oh no. But the worst part is getting up out of bed. Once you're actually physically up, that's the worst part over, and it's all, you know, it's all good from there, and you just get up and get going. So I miss that a little bit. I don't do it anymore. I do more consultancy work now, which pays better. But I do miss it a little bit, but I really didn't mind the early mornings at all. And in the winter, when you go into the milking parlour, once the girls come in, see if you're really cold, you could go and squeeze in between all the cows and get a heat, because they're really, really warm and they generate a lot of heat. So you just used to go and squeeze in between them and get warmed up a little bit. That's good. That's nice. But I like cows as well. They're my favourite farm animal after pigs. But you can get a good cuddle from a pig as well in the winter when it's cold. That sounds ridiculous, but you can. They're if they're tame enough. If you've got kind of like pet pigs, they'll come and give you a cuddle. Okay, working away quite well here in this section. I'm not too happy about this part here, but I'm not panicking about it yet. I'm going to spread it out a little bit into this sage. I just feel as if I've just kind of like plopped a bit of pencil down, and it's a bit harsh, so I'm going to bring the shape, I'm going to make the shape more irregular, you know, the darkest part of the shape, and then just start to spread it out a little bit. That's better. I'm a bit happier with that now. Back to my sage. So I'm just switching back and forth here, not randomly, but I'm just alternating. And I'm just trying to not think about it, and that's it. Chatting away helps with that as well. You know, if you've got something else going on, you're less likely to pay attention to what it is you're actually doing, and weirdly that's what you want for things like this. So you can see what I'm going for now. You know, that's sort of giving you the idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of like casually sneak my way up towards the actual name area, and I'll show you a little bit about how I'm going to go about doing round the edge of that. This little dude looks like he's having a good time. So let's take the charcoal, and I'll start a little part here. When you're doing this as well, that was the other thing I meant to say, it's actually better to not have a completely sharp pencil. Having a slightly rounded tip lets you get those softer edges a little bit better, so don't sharpen your coloured pencil within an inch of its life, because you really don't need to. If it gets really blunt, obviously, then give it a wee bit of a sharpen, but you don't have to go nuts with it. Right, my thinking is I want to have this just sort of fade out from the colour to the white of the paper, because I want this left white so that we can write our name in, and you know, this is all going to stand out. So with the sage being slightly later, good grief, with the sage being slightly lighter, that's the pencil I'm going to use to fade out from colour to white. So when we come up to this area here, I'm just, the way you would if you were going to swatch your pencils, going dark to light, but we want it to be quite random as well. So the idea is if you just do a wee part at a time, so if I bring this up, and again this is just a first light layer, I'm holding quite far back from the pencil so that I'm not pressing down without realising. And if I just start to make a sort of ring around this part, just really lightly to begin with, because you can mess about with the shape in one thing and another. So if we take this little section here to begin with, just as a demonstration, we want to fade this out to practically nothing. But I still want to have that sort of slightly mottled blotchiness about it. So where I've got a darker area, so say, like, let's make this a darker area. Just darken this down a little bit so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, like this. When we get to the left-hand edge of this, we just want to start releasing the pressure very, very slowly, until you're literally just letting the pencil go over the paper itself, and then just lift off. And that's going to be as gradual as you're going to get. and that's perfect. Obviously when you're doing this you don't want it to come really far in here because you're going to end up going over this section, and especially if you've got a long name, that's not good for down here. In the lighter areas you just want to carry on what you had, and again do the same thing, just eventually just tickle the paper and then all shall be right. So up here, let's just decide to put a little bit of the charcoal in up in this section up here. So I want to keep it far enough away so that I can use the sage to graduate in, but I don't want a big sage ring the whole way round, so because that will look too uniform I think. So we'll pop a little bit of the charcoal in here, and we'll just very gradually lift our pencil as we head into the sage, and then you can start to blend those two together. Now if you keep it light then you're not going to end up with a dark ring either. Obviously the harder you press when you're blending, the more sort of saturated that colour is going to look and going to become. So just take your time, very light layers, and you will get it the way you want it to look if you just build them up one at a time. Take a step back, look, see what you think, and then decide whether or not that's what you're wanting to do. Now granted that doesn't look like much just now, that looks as if I've like smeared the side of my hand down the page, but once you start to fill in all the gaps, that's going to come together quite nicely. So let's do a bit of that. So I'm going to put a really dark bit of sage here. So I'll get a couple of layers of that down and just in this one area. And then we can work on sort of joining these areas up. Pop this down here. I find things like this very therapeutic actually, it's strange. Or maybe it's not strange. I know quite a lot of people enjoy colouring to help them relax. But even when, I mean when I'm filming, I don't mean like generally, obviously it's relaxing generally. But when you're filming you do have to, it's not just a case of opening your colouring book and start colouring. It's not that simple. You know, you have to be aware of what you're saying and make sure that you're in shot, and the thing I struggle with, trying to explain yourself in a way that everyone understands, because my thought processes when they come out my mouth, you know, they make perfect sense in my head, but then when I try and explain myself and I listen back to it, I'm like, you could have done that better, Jem. But that's something, I mean, I'm learning all the time, I'm learning as I go, and the whole YouTube thing is quite a big learning curve. But I think I'm doing okay. And I have to say, I did watch part of an old video back the other day. Someone had asked me a question on the video and I couldn't remember. It was so long ago. It was like over a year ago. So I had to watch back part of the video. And when I was watching it, I wasn't cringing, but I was like, wow. So I do think that generally my sort of presenting skills and the way that I'm explaining things, I do think I'm getting better at it. But it is a learning curve. Nobody really teaches you those types of things. You can watch videos on it and take online classes, but when it comes to the way that you speak and how you present yourself, it is a very personal and individual thing, because we are all very, very different, and you just kind of have to adapt the tips and tricks that you learn to suit you. And that's something I think that is just coming over time. But I am slightly uncomfortable watching some of my older videos now, but I'm not ashamed of them, because it's, you know, it's a learning process, and to be able to see that there has been improvement from some of my very first videos to, you know, to where we are now in terms of actually producing a finished article of a video, I'm quite proud of that. So it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's just a bit sort of like, oh, that's a bit dodgy. That's fun all the same. So someone commented on one of my, I think it was on the community post actually, get ready to start drawing some eyes in. I've got this thing about Kerby's little guys not having any pupils, it freaks me out and I always have to give them pupils. So yes, there's going to be some of that going on. There's definitely going to be some of that going on. So here we go, I'm getting back up to this area here, so I'm really light pressure. I'm just letting the pencil dance over the paper itself. I'm not actually doing anything in terms of pressure here. This looks a bit wishy-washy in here, so I'm maybe going to stick in another bit of charcoal. Right, let's try and join this section up now. I think I can get this bit in here done, and then that'll look as if we've actually done something today. So I have to decide. I see I've put a little bit of charcoal there, so I think I'll have some in here. Might make this bit quite dark. It is quite early in the morning here. It's only 8:45. I very rarely film in the morning. I usually do that in the afternoons once I've got all my work done, but I just decided to go for it this morning. I am waiting on a package coming today, and if you have watched the last video from the coffee fund, it's the first gouache video. Again, I'll link that in the end card if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it. I start playing about with gouache, which is what you guys voted for in the coffee fund poll. I talked about the colour that was on the front of the box of the original set that I bought, the sort of starter set, and it's like a cobalt turquoise colour. Well, I hunted high and low because I was in love with that colour. I hunted high and low and I managed to find one, so it's getting delivered today, and the minute I get it, I don't care whether I'm working or not, I'm stopping so that I can swatch it out. So I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for a delivery van coming, because it's coming by courier, it's not coming in the like the standard mail. So that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. One single tube of paint makes me happy and makes me watch for the delivery man. It's ridiculous. Simple things, I'm easily pleased. Pop some of this in here. Now it is quite important to vary your pressure when you are using these two colours, because what you don't want is for the background to look unfinished because it's too pale and it's quite patchy. So if you have those sort of darker, well I say darker, if you have areas that have more layers and they fade out into paler areas, that's going to help to alleviate that, so you don't look as if you've just not finished it. So I think we'll maybe go in here. This is quite dark in here. My other temptation, when I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do with this, my other temptation was to actually make the background black and just paint it with acrylic paint, but because it's quite a sort of detailed picture, that would be a lot of ins and outs and that kind of, very sort of, well, fiddly bits. And it would be too fiddly, it would take far too long. So I decided just to go for the good old coloured pencil. But I think that's something that would look really nice. Yes, I just thought that would be too much work. And I've done a black background in a couple of the Hannah Carlson nameplate pages as well, so I just felt that that would be a bit sort of samey and overkill, and that's not the idea that we want, especially when I'm filming it for you guys as well. I mean, this is a very personal challenge for me, is getting all these nameplate pages coloured. It's just something that I really wanted to do, but I figured it was something I would share with you because it's one of the kind of subjects that aren't really covered as much in a lot of the other sort of YouTube colouring videos. I know people do them sort of every now and then, but it's just something that I wanted to do. So after this we have got, what have we got? We've got 2 Hannah Carlson nameplate pages to do, and we also have World of Flowers by Johanna Basford and Ticket to Dreams by Karolina Kubikowska. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate between Hannah Carlson page and one of the other ones so that we're not doing lots of Hannahs in a row, because I'm kind of all Hannah'd out just now, if I'm honest. So the next one after this will be a Hannah Carlson one, and then we'll go to Ticket to Dreams because that was the next most popular page that you voted for in the poll. and we'll alternate accordingly until we're done. I don't think I'll get through them all by the end of the year, because once we get into December, then we will be into Cave Miss. So that's going to be a whole different ball game. But I think we'll probably finish them sort of early into the new year, which would be great. That would make me very happy. And then I'll maybe do a video with a quick flip through, you know, just like a review of all the nameplate pages that we've done. Just maybe like a quick sort of couple of minute video. This comes all the way in here. I have to say this picture's a lot easier than the last Kerby one that we did. It's a bit easier to figure out what everything is because there's a cohesive theme. It's just a little bit less brain bending, which is always nice, let's be fair. So I'm really looking forward to filming the next coffee video, because that is the video where I'm going to be doing an actual painting. So that's the kind of like the next thing on my to-do list just now, and I'm quite excited about it. I hate to admit it, but I might be turning into a painter. I always say I'm not a painter. I may be turning into a painter. I don't know. We'll see. I am really enjoying these pencils. They're lovely. They remind me of... They're like a cross between Prismacolors and something else, and I don't know what the something else is, but they're like a really nice happy medium between a soft, like really blendable pencil and something that's got a bit more control over it, and that isn't, you know, getting chewed down really quickly. And I think that's why I like them, because they're somewhere in the middle. And see, I do like my Prismacolors. They have their place, and you know, I will use them on certain types of paper or for certain subjects. But it's nice that we've got something similar here that just isn't quite as soft, you know, because that's one thing. I've had my Polychromos pencils, which are the Faber-Castell oil-based ones, and they have a considerably harder core than the Prismacolors. And I know that wouldn't be difficult, but I've had them roughly the same amount of time, and I would say I've probably used my Polychromos more frequently than my Prismacolors, and I have replaced so many Prismacolor pencils because they're so soft and they need sharpened so often. I've gone through loads of them compared to my Polychromos. I still haven't replaced a Polychromos pencil. There's a couple that are getting quite short now, but I'm still not at the point where I need replacements, and it's kind of one of the downsides. You know, you're always going to have plus points and negatives about every art supply or set of pencils or whatever it is, but it's just such a huge difference, and it's really nice not to have to worry about, have I got another one of that colour? Because I have a lot of spares in Prismacolor, and it's just because if you end up using one particular colour for like something like this, like a background, you can go through a pencil pretty quickly. My stomach's going to growl in a minute. I'm hungry. I haven't had any breakfast yet. Okay. Right. What do we think to that, everyone? Can you see where I'm going with this though? Although it's not particularly exciting, it's going to look really, really good, and it's going to complement what we start doing in the foreground, because we're just keeping it that nice sort of, really sort of muted, mottled feel. So I think what I'll do is I'll maybe do another little bit round here, and then we'll stop after that. So I've gone back to my sage here, and I'm just going to start this really light sort of fade out area. I'm bringing something funky going on in here. I've got like a sort of, it looks like a little bit of like a flow in the paper. Not that that matters too much. This is very calming this morning. I finally got my new truck the other day. This saga has been going on for about 4 months, and I finally drove it home the other day, and it's lovely. I'm really, really glad that we finally got it sorted out. So that is something to look forward to. It's quite funny though, because my old car's like one of these kind of like crossover SUVs things. I've never liked it. Since the day and hour we bought it, I've detested that vehicle. But it was a manual transmission, and my new one is an automatic. So when I was driving it back from the garage, I kept looking for the clutch. You don't need the clutch, it's fine. It's really strange. I've not, Mr. Jem's truck's an automatic and I'm used to driving his truck, but I associate, you know, driving an automatic with his vehicle, not my own vehicle. So yeah, I looked for the clutch a couple of times, but it was okay. I got there eventually. So that was quite nice. So Mr. Jem and I, we don't have matching trucks. His is it's the same model we've got and it's the same trim level, but his is the older shape because that's like our works truck. So his is a slightly older version. I've got the newer shaped one. But that's, say, we use in my truck, it gets used as our proper car, if you like. You know, it's the one that gets kept clean and, you know, nobody's allowed to, like, eat in the back and stuff like that. So we have one dirty truck and one good truck. So yeah, that's good. I've still got a few bits and bobs to sort out with it. But I'm waiting, like stupid things like I'm waiting on new carpet mats coming for it because the mats that were in it were absolutely disgusting. We didn't buy it brand new. It's only a year old though. But the person that had it before us just, I don't know. Because the dealership said to us, do you want to leave the mats in it? And we were like, no, just take them out because we're not going to keep them. They're disgusting. That's quite rich coming from someone that's farming. It hasn't belonged to a farmer before us though. It was far too clean and well looked after to belong to a farmer. But I think it might have been somebody that stayed in a rural area and probably quite a muddy rural area just by judgment. If those mats were anything to go by. So we can't get Pip to go in the back of it. She's terrified. She's not good at getting in the car anyway. She really doesn't like it. And I've only just got her used to getting in the back of our old car. So I'm going to have to go through that all over again with her, with the truck. And it's a little bit different because they're enclosed. You know, when they're in the car, there's like, in the boot, there's a sort of, like we have a grate that separates the back seat from the boot. So although the dogs are in the boot, you can still see them and talk to them, whereas in the pickup the flatbed has a canopy on it, so it's completely separate from the cab. So when the dogs are in the back of the pickup, they can't, well, they can see you through the little window bit, but they're not in the same space as you. So I think that's maybe what's daunting her slightly. And plus as well, it's all tinted glass that's in it, so I don't know whether maybe that's discombobulating her a little bit. But we did like, the engine wasn't running or anything, but we did pop her up in the back of it when we brought it home the other night, just with it stationary, and we left the tailgate open for her, and she, the minute I put her in, she jumped straight down back out. I was like, okay, I think we're going to have a job on our hands here. But we'll get there. It's just one of those things that she'll have to get used to. But all I have to do is take her to the vets in it a couple of times, because when she realises she's going to the vet now, she realises she's getting biscuits and cuddles. So I'll do that a couple of times, and I'm hoping that she'll be a bit easier about it after that. But I'm gonna do it a couple of times in the next week or two, because she will be going to the vet to get neutered towards the end of the month, and obviously that is a negative experience, and I don't want her to associate being in the car with only negative experiences. But thankfully she's actually going to another practice. We have like it's like the secondary practice that's near us. The main one where they do all the surgeries and things is actually elsewhere, so that's quite good because she associates our vets with positive things. So we're taking her to a strange place to get her neutered. That's going to be fun as well. That'll be the first time that I'm taking her somewhere and leaving her in a strange place. I don't think that's going to go down well. But the vets are really, really good, and they play with the dogs and all this sort of stuff, so she'll be fine. She'll be okay. She'll just have to be. Okay guys, I think that's enough for now. I'm going to call it a day there. For next time, I will complete this background, so you have to do your homework if you're following along, but I'll not be doing anything different, the same thing all the way around. I just want to thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you in the next video. Have a good day everyone. Bye bye for now.